This is a Minecraft world I played on a server in the mid to late 2010s. Over the course of about 3 years, we made countless builds from castles, to cities, to statues, and more. It's been sitting on a hard drive for the last few years, and today I wanted to take the opportunity to share its creations and the story behind them to the internet. If you end up enjoying this video, please leave a like on it. There's more to come in the future. With that out of the way, let's get into it. So I thought, what better place to start my world tour than the world spawn point? So this is where everybody used to spawn, and as you can see here, we have what is a massive iron golem farm. Now I feel it important to mention that this is not made by me, and throughout this video I'll kind of point out what was and what wasn't created by me, and what was built in survival versus creative, which is a bit of a complicated story. Most of the builds on this world were made in survival mode, but I'll explain more on that later. So, where's the button? It's been a while since oh, pressure plate. There we go. Okay, let's head into town. So this, where we're heading to now, is a place that I just called Noob Town. And the reason I called it that is because basically with the spawn being right there, all the new players would usually flock here in an attempt to make something of themselves on the world, or to loot supplies, and apparently I must have triggered some minecarts before, so we're just going to run on foot here and make our way to the end of this rail track. It's not very far. So this is, oh my god, that is a lot of rail tracks. Okay, you know what? I'm just going to leave them there. So, it's weird. I don't know what happened to the name. But anyway, so this is the original spawn town, and the very first building built was actually one built by me, and it was this giant stone block. And the reason I built this and called it a hospital was basically because at the time when this world was created, this entire spawn area was a giant hilled forest, and witches kept spawning at night and poisoning people, and then skeletons would finish them off. So I made a hospital where I made an effort to gather as many milk buckets as possible, and I would put them in this chest here for players to cure themselves of poison. And then I also went up here and I put a bunch of beds. There are only 2 now, there used to be more. Essentially what happened with Noob Town is within the first month of the server being a thing, because we didn't have any kind of build protections on, we were playing this completely vanilla, it just became griefer central. The crime rate in this little town was absolutely insane. The hospital was looted almost immediately. Windows were smashed. The windows have since been repaired. I'm surprised they're there, but they were smashed at one point, and there were just a massive amount of problems. And you're going to see as we go through Noob Town that there's basically no organization to this place whatsoever. So this is the Great Map, which, again, not made by me. We'll actually start to see stuff made by me when we go in this direction. But you can see there's quite a few maps missing, and that's because players used to just rip them off the wall and carry them away. There were copies, but I guess they were missing copies of these, or they never got replaced. I don't know. But we are here, and you can kind of see, based on the street layout, there's really no rhyme or reason to how things are set up in this town. Everything is pretty messy. There's really no, I guess this is the town square, but there's really not much organization when it comes to Noob Town. So I want to check out this house here, because this house does have something cool behind it. I don't remember whose house this is, though I do know that I used to trade a lot here. We did a lot of trading on this world, and the cool thing that I wanted to show off is they've got back here, they've got all their sheep, and they're one of those things called mushrooms, I think, the red cows. But I really like this little garden that they have here. This was built, everything I'm showing you right now, like I said before, most things on this world were built in survival mode, so it's really going to be an exception if it was built on creative, and I will tell you when that happens. But this is a really cool little garden here. I have my own, but that's in a different city. And yes, there are actual cities on this world. They're pretty cool. They're not massive. They're not super massive like real life cities, because most of it was built, again, in survival. But they're pretty big, and I'll show those off in a minute. You may have seen a couple of them on the map there, but we are currently in, you know, it's weird. I didn't think Noob Town was this big. I'm looking at the map, and Noob Town is actually pretty big, but to be fair, some of this map isn't actually updated. Like, that there is actually about 4 times the size of what's displayed on the map. It should realistically be taking up 4 maps, but I guess it never got updated. So, moving on from that, what I mean about the layout, when I was saying before how there's really no layout, why is there a giant cat statue between a storage building and a cactus farm? I really don't know. I'm kind of surprised that never got burnt down given all the griefing. Like I said before, this town had major griefing problems, and basically the people who ran it, there were 3 main factions that I know of on this world, and the faction that ran this place had pretty much no laws except for no griefing, and nobody followed that one, hence why you have all this deforestation over here. So in my faction, we had laws. Any land within the faction territory, you had to replant trees if you were going to mine them, unless you were clearing them to build on them. But yeah, loads of deforestation around Noob Town, and these random little structures that were never completed for one reason or another, as well as a giant ghast. There's really just a lot of, everything around here is just random. There's really no structure to anything, so I'm not really a fan of it. There's a reason why I moved out of here about a month after the server. I don't even think it took me a month, but a few weeks after the server started, I moved out of here and started to build my own town, which we're going to go to in a little bit. But first, I'm going to check out this house here. This is a kind of interesting one. It reminds me of classic Minecraft in a lot of ways, like maybe Minecraft 1.8, the 1.8 beta that is. Pretty neat, pretty interesting, very basic, but I think it's pretty cool. Oh, they got a basement. I didn't know they have a basement. This wasn't my house, so I really wasn't allowed to go in it when the server was up and running. Polished ites. I guess, well, those cobblestone, but diorite granite. Okay, that makes sense. Pretty cool storage room. You can see they really follow the signs. I don't think I want to do that. I'm not going to follow the signs because I don't know what's in here. But it seems like they use the hell out of the iron farm, considering all their blocks are made of iron. Did Mojang change the color of potions? I don't know why they've done that. That's pretty ugly that they've made the night vision potion lime green when it used to be like a dark purple. Very strange. But moving on from that, let's go check out over here. We have this house, which I believe was a copy of a YouTuber's house. I don't remember the YouTuber's name, but I'm pretty sure this was like a carbon copy of it, and it's very redstone centered. I was never into redstone, but I guess that's cool. Like, you got this door here, and the same thing with the iron walls, very bright colors of wood. I don't personally like this at all. My tastes are just something that I tend to like things that are... I like to build my builds a little bit darker, usually using a lot more gray than the light colors. I don't like birchwood either, but it's kind of cool how it's sunk into the lake here. I think that's interesting. But now we're going to head out of Noob Town, and we're going to head to this firewall over here, which was actually built a little bit later on, but since we're over here, I may as well show it to you anyways. So this actually belonged to another faction. Their name I cannot remember for the life of me. And basically this faction was comprised predominantly of the server owner, the main admin. He had a younger brother, and then basically that younger brother invited all of their friends here, and they built this place, which doesn't work, apparently. The door doesn't work. Okay, I guess that's why these grass blocks are... Maybe? Maybe not? Okay, so we've made it inside their little compound slash city slash town. I don't know what you want to call this place. Whatever it was, they have a lot of iron golems hanging around here, and this town was never finished. The kids that built this place, I'm pretty sure they were griefers, and I'm pretty sure that's why they built this compound, because they'd basically go over there, raid Noob Town, and then they would just bring whatever they stole back here. And they have some pretty interesting builds. Again, you know, I'm not really one of those people that likes the super complicated Minecraft builds. I actually quite like this structure. It's very basic, it's very simple, but again, gives me the old beta 1.7 vibes, minus the glass panes, of course, because they didn't exist in beta 1.7. But really interesting. They have a little map of themselves, apparently, because that's pretty much all that's on the map. And some of these structures are just, the designs are so cool. I like what they did with the stone here. Like I said before, I do like stone, and I really like this mansion, or whatever this is supposed to be. I like the way they did the windows up there. It is incomplete. If you go inside, you can see this little town actually got abandoned. I don't know if they got banned for griefing, or if they all just collectively decided to stop playing at the same time, but literally all the kids that were in this faction just disappeared one day. Like, they were on the server one day, and the next day they just up and disappeared. So it's possible that they got banned for griefing. Mutually agreed upon wars to be fought were allowed, but just plain old griefing wasn't. And there were, like any Minecraft server, quite a lot. I guess this is an automatic farm. What is this? What happens if I... Oh, that's neat. That's pretty neat. I'm not going to replant those right now. I'm just going to keep on moving. There's this building up here, also unfinished. The interior, there's nothing in there. I'm not sure what this is. Some kind of a vault, I guess? Just says coming soon. I guess they didn't know how to spell. Please do not put any books in chests. Enchanted books. Maybe this was a store or some kind of... Yeah, I'm thinking this must have been their plans to implement a store. I'm not really sure what happened to these guys, but you can see there's quite a lot of unfinished builds. I mean, half the town is unfinished, but it's quite a cool place. Like I said, it reminds me of my early days playing Minecraft on the 360 edition of the game. Very basic structures and whatnot. But let's go outside again and check out what else is there. Some of this stuff is like alien to me. Like, I've either never been in here or I've only been in here once and it was years ago. I haven't really been into Minecraft for a couple of years. That's probably going to be a separate video in and of itself, why I essentially quit Minecraft. But I wanted to make this video and a couple others, so subscribe if you want to see those. I have a few other worlds that are interesting, just to kind of preserve them, just for the internet and all to see. How do I get in here? I don't know how I get in here. This looks like it's supposed to be a bank, judging by the gold blocks inside. Really, I gotta run all the way around? Yep. Yeah, I'm gonna guess this was supposed to be... I think this was gonna be a bank. I think I had talked to them at one point and they told me that this was going to be a bank, but like everything else in this little town, it never got finished. And they actually stole this wall idea from me. Like, they pretty much carbon copied the same wall design that I have. I will elaborate on that later on. But on to the next area. So between Noob Town and the one we're going to next, I built this giant highway. It was just like a mega highway, and it goes all the way that way. Noob City or Noob Town is in that direction. And I built this highway because the thing was, for some reason, this world seed generated, it was created in 1.8, and it generated a massive amount of just these hilly forests, which at night are not fun to run through, especially if you're a new player. You will get shot at by skeletons and thrown at poisons by witches. You're just going to have a bad time. So I built the highway to basically connect the 3 major cities on the world, and originally it started off as just 2 blocks wide of cobblestone, then it was 3 blocks wide, and then eventually now it has this whole wide thing with these guardrails, and then rails for minecarts, and you just have everything. And that is going to lead us to the city called Hovel. I don't know why I named it Hovel, but this is my city, and I did build this pretty much entirely. I built almost all of this. So I should address this area first. A thing to note about this city is the whole thing was basically just a giant failure. Originally the city borders just ended right here, and then it was extended to be out here, and I wanted to make this area into a sort of apartments district, and my plan was I was going to have all these brick buildings. That wall is what was left of the plan for the brick buildings, but I was going to have all these brick buildings, and they were all going to be like flats or something like that for people to live in. And then I realized just how hard it is to get bricks on Minecraft. And then I realized that I lived in the middle of the forest with no large bodies of water to collect clay from. And can I just say, why have they not made clay easier to obtain in this game after all these years? That's just a major gripe I have. So basically I threw in the towel and I just put random crap here. And I assure you, this town's going to get a lot better. This giant cube was never used for anything. I just made it because I had a silk touch pickaxe or 2 that I collected all these ores with, and I had nothing better to do with my life at the time, so giant cube. I had thought of using it as a gladiator arena at one point. I think I may have actually fought somebody in here just for the hell of it, but yeah, that's all that is. Same thing with that little coal building. Then you have these 2 buildings here, which were just designed as they were kind of me experimenting with different designs, and I don't think I ever really did anything with them. Then you have this, which is an interesting story. My plan for the city was to have a giant subway underground network, and this actually goes into the larger reason of why this city failed. You can see under here, under the flat plane that I built to build this area. There are loads of hills, trees, grasses, and everything else just blocking the way. In order to build this city, I had to clear this stuff like crazy. There is stone underneath there. There's just loads of stuff I had to clear. And it was getting to the point where I was spending 3+ hours a day just clearing lands to try to get the flat land for this. And that's one of the reasons the city failed, is that this place is just incredibly difficult to build on. So, coming into the main city here, we have the first temple of Herobrine, which is weird because I feel like Herobrine isn't even really a thing anymore in Minecraft. Nobody talks about it. But, yeah, we worshipped Herobrine because, I don't know, I guess it was edgy. But, yeah, we had that. And then if you go down here, this will lead you into the town square. Now, in the next city I'm going to show you, because this is actually the first city that I built, and you're going to see some of the good ideas from this city repeated in the next, which is much more impressive. But we'll get to that giant thing in a minute. But you can see here I have a failed automated farm that was never completed. I didn't really understand how redstone worked at the time at all. And here we have, this was like our town board where we basically posted if there was going to be any major raid or operation going on. We would basically just post what we needed. You'd put donated items in this chest, and then you would kind of sign up here to see who would go to the event. And then in here we have the smallest library known to Minecraft, because yeah, I have no idea why I never built a bigger library. I have another world that actually has a decent sized library, but this one was tiny. Then in here we have an old Xbox 360 styled mob grinder. If any of you guys played on the 360 days, you'll know these were quite popular back then. Because I came from 360. The first time I played Minecraft was not on Java, it was the Xbox version. And then I was supposed to make another mob grinder, but it turns out having two next to each other didn't work, but I didn't know that when I was building it. So then someone built an automated fish farm here, or an AFK fish farm. Then you come into here, and this is the actual town square where we would have different things in the center. At one point there was a beacon here, then there was a Christmas tree, and now there was a cage because I think I was displaying an upside down cow in here, which I'm pretty sure is around here somewhere still. But then we have this Capitol building, and then this is actually my first house on the world, which weirdly is divided by this wall. I don't know why I chose to do that. I feel like it would have been better to just kind of make the wall come out here and not attach to it, but whatever. So this was my first house on this world, or at least my first proper house. My real first quote-unquote house I'll show in a minute. But it's pretty bare bones on the inside. There's nothing here, really. I didn't really do a lot in here. There's entryway to an underground. There are a couple of underground tunnels underneath the city. Nothing crazy, just little tunnels I built to get around. But yeah, there's really nothing going on in here except for a villager that won't get out of the way. There are redstone lamps up here that you can toggle on and off with that lever, but it doesn't really make sense to do so because there's torches in here as well. I think I was having a problem with mob spawning because this is before they updated the spawning where mobs now don't spawn in dark corners. It has to be total darkness for them to spawn. But I had a nice little view out to the forest, and let's go check out the town hall. So this is the town hall, and if we go, I had all sorts of rules for my little city. So the Noob Town had almost no rules, and my town had lots of rules. So I feel like that was part of the problem. Just two opposite extremes. That's the conference room. Then you can go up here, and I made just like a little office area with what was supposed to be computers. Then you keep going upstairs, and you have, I don't know what this is. Oh, it's just a storage room. That's all it is, just a place to store items. And then you go up one more floor, and you have, I called it the Treasury Department, and a really nice view of that fortress in the woods. I'm going to go over there in a minute. We are going to see that. I'm not going to skip that, but just a little place here, and then a little area here. this was all built by me, all in survival. So like these anvils, I actually went, and I'm pretty sure I actually got those anvils before the iron golem farm was complete. It took quite a while for that thing to be built. But yeah, all of this was built in survival by me, by myself. I had a lot of time on my hands and no idea what to do with myself. So then I have this in here, this random mound of glass for some reason. A bed that doesn't work, because if you sleep next to slabs, apparently it won't set your spawn there. And then you go climb up here, and you get rooftop access, which is a decent view. I don't know why I had, like, these balconies on the side of the mob grinder building. I'm not... What are those? Levers? I don't... Because I built this, but I don't remember what everything does here. So this was just to get in to try to service the mob grinder if it ever needed servicing or something. Oh, I think I was experimenting. Yeah, I was just experimenting with water buckets and seeing if I could get them to push mobs down better. So yeah, this whole thing basically was just a failed experiment. Looks like something out of Chernobyl. All the levers and stuff. But yeah, basically just an abandoned building. There was a much more efficient mob grinder that was made in Noob Town, which was floating in the sky, but I didn't go in there. That whole town's just ugly. I just don't particularly like it. Actually, let's climb up here. And then let's jump down here. We're on peaceful mode, so damage doesn't really matter that much. So this is the town square. Then you come this way, and you can actually see the first... So, when I started this city, the whole area, like I said before, looked like that, with hills and loads of trees. So it was really hard to find out where you were to navigate. So the first actual structure built in this area was this water tower that I just jumped up on. I built that for aesthetic purposes and so I could kind of find my way, because seeing a big white domed structure in a forest of green and brown trees kind of stood out. And then the second building I built was this little furnace room because I needed a place to smelt stuff. But my first house was here. My first house, quote unquote. Basically, 2 creepers blew up here, and that exposed a naturally generated hole, and I went in said naturally generated hole, and I stored all my items down here because I figured it was safe, because the woods was kind of scary at night, and not all the players on the server wanted to skip to the daytime. So this is where I lived for about the first 3 months of playing this game, and then I stored a bunch of iron down here, and I had a decently sized mine, not really big, that's just right under the town hall, and then that goes off in a direction, and then you can actually go further down there, but it's just more of a hole, basically. There's probably about 10 blocks worth here, and then it's just another hole like this. Not really that big of a deal. I have a much bigger mine that I'm going to show when we get to the next city, but this one was basically the city of cool ideas that didn't really pan out. But moving on to here, we've got my supermarket that I made where I would sell stuff to people, and it's interesting. It says no wither skulls, and my faction had a rule across all of its cities and settlements. You were not allowed to be in possession of wither skulls unless you were like one of the top ranked people, because we had an incident where we were fighting the wither actually in that other hole I mentioned beneath the town hall, and the wither, we were trying to fight it and it escaped, and bad things happened. It took us like 5 in-game days to contain it and to stop it from spreading underground. Fortunately, it never broke out of underground, but yeah, that was scary. So we kind of outlawed wither skulls. So these here are just our faction's old banner. That's not the current banner, that's just the old banner from the time when this city was made. I really like this gate, but you can see what I was saying about the wall earlier, where they kind of copied my design, because I remember they literally came to my city first because I was trying to get them to live here, because the population of this place was like 2 people, and they were like, we don't want to live here, but we like the walls, and then they made their own. But yeah, so that house, or this part of a house, was not made by me. Let me actually just change it to day so you can see a bit better. Yeah, this house was not made by me. This was made by someone who stayed on this server for like a week and then just never returned for some reason. This, however, was a temple that was in the process of being made by me. And for some reason, I took a ridiculously long time to try to get hay bales and put them up here because I thought that looked good. I suppose it did, but it's pretty dark in here. But yeah, this is the temple. It was never finished. There's a lot of unfinished things in this town, although not as much as the other one. I will address all the nether portals in a minute. Basically, each major settlement on the server is linked via a nether portal. There's a giant nether hub, but that's going to be for later on. So, let's go to the thing you've probably been waiting for me to get onto. So if you run through this forest, through the path, you will find this little Ewok village built on the trees that, again, was quite unfinished. And my original intention for it was supposed to spread all the way in that direction. But the thing that you really find is this giant fortress that I built. This took me probably about a good month and a half to build. I got the stained clay from a mesa biome that's really far away from here. I might show that off in the nether hub, but yeah, I spent several days just mining stained clay and getting cactus green to dye it all green like that and gray. And this is probably one of my favorite Minecraft creations of all time. Let me just show you just how big the scale of this thing. I mean, it's massive. It's literally the size of the entire town square. It's probably bigger than that. What it's inspired off of, it's actually inspired off of the Field Armory building from the first Halo Wars game. It's not meant to be a replica of it. It's just heavily inspired by it with the color palette and the overall design choice. I'll put an image on screen of that if you don't know what I'm talking about. So yeah, basically, I looked at the Field Armory in Halo Wars 1 and was like, yes, that needs to be in Minecraft in some capacity. Also a better view of the Ewok Village there. But a fun fact about this build is it was never completed. I never actually finished this. You can still see I've got the chests out front from when I was building it, and I never removed them. And if we go inside, well, there is definitely some detail in here. We've got a cafeteria, which I don't know why I made this a cafeteria considering nobody else lived in this building but me. But, you know, this giant cafeteria, and you had a little prison cell, a place to store horses, and that's pretty much it. Once you go upstairs, there's very little in the way of detail. This was supposed to be my bedroom, and I never even took the torches off the floor. Then you go up to the next floor, and this was supposed to be a conference room with a villager that's apparently in the bathroom. Didn't know villagers went to the bathroom, but I always liked this window design that I made. But yeah, this is supposed to be a bathroom. And here we have a furnace room to smelt things. But there really wasn't much going on up here. I had an animal testing lab, because basically I wanted to see rabbits at the time were brand new to the game, and I wanted to see if rabbits would change their color based on which ones you bred. I didn't know if there was like a way to, I don't know. And then here, just a lot of torches on the ground. I kind of wish that I could go back and finish this or something, but I just don't see the point. And, ugh, look at that mob grinder in the distance. What an eyesore. Like, the rest of the town is fine. And then you see the mob grinder and my giant ore cube. If I ever was to pick up this server, those little crappy wood houses are getting burnt down. That cube is going, and that mob grinder is going. But, yeah, this is basically the top of the fortress. Now, going back down here, we can see something that I tried to implement again. It kind of goes to that whole underground theme of having underground tunnels. Basically, you go down here, and there is actually... Oh, well, there's a ladder that leads down there, but that's not really where we're going. This, which I don't know why I didn't just take the ladder down from the first floor of the fortress, because that's where that leads. But this was supposed to be an underground... I don't even know, like, bunker system that never got completed. This looks like it goes somewhere, but it doesn't. This is all it is. I never finished it. This was kind of when... I don't know. I just got tired of this city. I guess I got tired of digging and constantly having to clear land. The whole area above me, where the fortress is built into, had to be cleared. I spent several hours just clearing the top of this little... natural mountain here literally spent hours clearing it, and just bear in mind too, this is a time like now on Minecraft you have scaffolding where you can kind of use that somewhat creatively to make things like this easier. Scaffolding didn't exist back then. We literally just had dirt blocks to just tower up with and tear back down. And you can see under here, that is the platform, the mountain platform that I built this on top of. Still one of my favorite all-time builds on Minecraft. I kind of wish the city wasn't there, or at the very least the eyesores of the city weren't there, because this by itself is just magnificent in my mind. But I am going to move on to the next area because I've spent long enough here. So if you continue on from the city of Hovel and you just head down this road, I actually kind of cheated here. Between Noob Town, which is that way, and Hovel, there's actually another city between the two of them, but I wanted to save the best for last, or at least the best city for last. This isn't the last thing I'm showing you, but it's the last major city. And that is the new city. That's what it was called. I never had a name for it other than the new city, and by new, well, it's over 5 years old now, but yeah. So this is, you can see the same wall design, which is actually based off of, if you've ever played Mega Man Legends, the walls from the city in that game, this is kind of what those were inspired by. Now, there used to actually be a mountain right here in this plain of grass. That used to be a mountain, and I completely shaved it down. Then when I got to the bottom, I blew it up with TNT because I got tired of mining, and this is the remnants of that. So, coming back up here, of this new city, we've actually got 4 main entrances. There are a couple of hidden entrances, but we're going to go through the south entrance right now, and this is the main walk-in, and this was actually the first thing built. So, a little bit of background on this city. I built 95% of this completely by myself, 100% of it all in survival mode, and it took me... So the first thing I did, this was all actually a bunch of connected plains biomes that had a bunch of hills. Basically what I did is I shaved down every hill by about, I want to say about 7 or 8 blocks, and then I used the blocks to create just a giant flat plain platform to build on. And then I built the walls. That process in total took me about 2 months. And then I built this archway here as kind of a grand entryway into the city. And my intention for the archway was that we were going to have trading stalls like here on the sides and everywhere. But those never got put in because the server really only ever had like 10 to 12 people on it max. It wasn't very popular. Minecraft in general was suffering in popularity back then. And yeah, there were really only a few of us playing, so it was overly ambitious, but I think it looks nice. And then in the middle here, we have every ore in the game, minus netherite, because at the time, netherite didn't exist, and we have the dragon egg. So this is kind of the town square. This is the center of town, even though there's actually more town that way than there is that way, but this is roughly the center of town. And it's divided into multiple districts, and I want to cover the first proper building that was made in this little city. So the first building that was ever made here is actually this one. So my brick concept from the previous city basically became realized here, except instead of multiple buildings, it was one giant haunted house. And the idea behind this was that I wanted something that would attract people to come to the city as tourists and then maybe to settle down, because I was really looking for people to play with, and I was looking for people to kind of stimulate the local economy, if you will. And fun fact that I'll get into later, this wall at one point was completely destroyed. Someone blew it up with TNT. It was a griefer, and it took us a very long time to find out. This city had a griefing problem. Not as bad as Noob Town did, but I'll tell you more about that in a bit. So we've got this abandoned pool that I just broke some of the decorations on. And then we've got all these vines, and basically the idea was you'd come to the city, you'd pay 1 emerald to go into the haunted house, and you'd get a little guided tour, and yeah, it was pretty fun. So going here, just kind of dark and spooky looking, little dining hall, whatever this room is. This house is actually modeled off of a house I made on a different world in creative. This was made in survival, but I have a creative world as well that I may show off one of these days. Let me know if you want to see that. But, yeah, you go up here, and it's not the best design, but I think it's alright. I don't know what I was thinking with those beds, though. That just looks weird. My favorite room in the haunted house probably has to be this one. I got loads of string to make these cobwebs. At least I think. Do you make cobwebs with string? No, I think I may have had to use Silk Touch to get them. I don't remember. It's been a really long time since I've played. But that is the haunted house. I'm not going to go into the other rooms because there's really not much to talk about there. So, away from the this is just the haunted house district, and then this is the housing district, along with our new faction flag. It was like, I want to say 2017, like late 2016, early 2017, so the whole Illuminati meme was kind of edgy at the time, so that's what I would make. And this is the housing district, where basically the premise of it was, I built all of these houses to try to attract new players to the world, and some people actually did live in them. And the idea was every single house was completely uniform, except for the colors. If you went in any of these, they were all exactly the same. The kitchen, the bedroom, everything was exactly the same. And then I also made little attics for people to store their chests in, or whatever items that they needed to store. And yeah, I offered a free house to anybody that came to my city, and the rule at the time was that they were allowed, I want to say it was 2 or 3 weeks, to basically live in here as a starter home, and then they could either move out or buy the house with the in-game money system we had. We used emeralds, gold, and lapis, I believe, as currency. But that was the deal with that. Now, as time went on, and I realized no one was really coming on the server that much, I stopped building these uniform houses. Some of them aren't. This one's not even finished. You can see in here, it looks finished, and then you go to the kitchen and there's just nothing there. And then you go upstairs and there's no floor. So that was never finished. But I started allowing people to put houses of their own. That building was not built by me. It was meant to be like a public furnace/donations building. And this is actually someone's house. Again, not built by me. Very cool house. I do like it a lot. Very interesting design. A little bit lighter on the inside, but I don't mind. I feel like this works. It's not too bright, but yeah, really nice design. Even end rods for the ceiling, which is cool. An iron golem. There's a lot of iron golems around here. I think I had put the iron golems to stop mobs from coming in and killing everyone, because there were parts of the city that were kind of dark. But a fun fact about this house, and mentioning griefing, this was not always here. There was actually originally a giant green clay house here. It was probably about this big. And it turned out that a griefer lived in that house. And they were really trusted on the server, the person that was griefing. And what ended up happening was, it was like literally a months-long investigation, because they were really smart about when they griefed, where they would basically wait until multiple people were on the server, and they would wait until, because people would come, not many people actually lived in this city, but a lot of people would pass through, and they would essentially wait until loads of people were in town all at the same time, and then they would grief. So you never really knew who was doing it. One day we narrowed it down to them. I don't even remember how we did, but I remember I'm pretty sure we discovered like a massive stash of TNT that they had in like an underground chest somewhere. But yeah, we found out that they blew up the wall over there. They had stolen a bunch of things, blown up a bunch of other things. It was pretty crazy. So with that, we went and we actually blew up their entire house, which if we go, I may have to go into spectator mode. Oh yeah, there's also a gap in the wall that we never made use of. But yeah, this is what is left of their house. Just a giant crater. I'm not sure what that cobweb's doing there, but a massive crater where it used to be. I think I used like 5 stacks of TNT to just nuke everything that they ever had, because I was pissed. I mean, they had been a problem on the world for like 5 months, and then they got permabanned from the server. And I remember they messaged me and they were like, really? And I'm like, yeah, that's kind of what you get. But that is just some server drama for you. Let's just get back up here in spectator. So we've got the housing district we've got the haunted house district, and now I want to just show you a little bit more of the main street. We had message boards. I don't know. Oh god, the joke wall. I forgot about the joke wall. Basically, the joke wall is self-explanatory. Anybody could just put whatever jokes they wanted on a sign or in a book in an item frame. And then this is just the message board. And then here, this was supposed to be an art gallery where basically we wanted to have, kind of like in Noob Town where they had the statues of the cat and everything, we wanted to make things. I made that sword a much cooler thing than the netherite sword, I think. I mean, I don't know why they added netherite and then made it look exactly like stone tools, more or less. I think a obsidian lapis sword like this would have been far cooler, but whatever. So I made that. Like I said, it never really took off here. I think I put just the different colors of wool out. I think these are all the wool colors, I think. And then I did like a red, green, blue RGB thing for some reason, but it never really took off. But from there, we've got to check out the mining district, which is pretty cool. For anyone who doubts that I built all this on survival, anyone who says there's no way, where did you get the materials from? There's your answer. A giant hole in the ground that me and loads of other people used to dig in. People used to come to this city just to dig in the mine because the mine was just that crazy. So basically you come down here, and the platform that I mentioned before that we built the rest of the city on, this part of it, I just allowed everybody, I built that fence around it, and I allowed everybody to dig to their heart's content. And if you look down here, we've got a trampoline, and I'll just show you. Could jump up, and there's a jungle tree down here, just because we could. There's actually a lot of interesting things down in this mine. I don't know how some of them got here. So way down in this direction, there is a giant melon that somebody made that encases a bunch of lava. I don't know why. I don't know how. I don't know who was carrying that many melons on them, but it was made in survival mode, so I don't know what the deal is with that. The other thing is all these dark gray, but what is this? What is it? I haven't played modern Minecraft. Deep slate. I know they replaced the bedrock, because this used to be bedrock, and I know it's deeper now. It'd be interesting to see if we dug this even deeper than it already is. What would that look like? But who knows? Maybe I'll get into Minecraft again one day. Maybe I won't. I don't know. Probably not. Who knows? Who knows what will happen? But yeah, there are just different holes going. I mean, I'm pretty sure this was all dug out by hand. Just a massive amount of digging that was done. But I'm going to go back up to the surface in a minute, and I'll be right back. Okay, so we are back in the top of the mining district, and I had all these buildings with purple windows that were essentially meant to just be little crappy automated farms. They really weren't very efficient. I just didn't know what to do with the extra space, and I wasn't going to continue digging a hole, so I built those. And then we've got over here our storage hangar, which I'll tell you more about a little later, and you'll see why. But essentially what this was in concept is, yeah, it is what it sounds like. It's just a giant hangar that we stored loads of items from the mine in. And you'll notice there's not a lot stored in here, and you'll see why. Oh, well, that one has a lot in it, but you'll see why in a minute. You'll see why there's not much stored in there in a moment. But moving on. So remember how I mentioned that the storage building didn't really have that much stored in it? Well, that's because the whole idea of an underground city, as you'll see in the next couple clips, really came to fruition. So we have this underground area here that basically just links the storage building to the other side of the mine. You can see through the window. But something else I had that was a top secret project, partly made in response to all the griefing issues we had, was the massive underground storage bunker. So I mentioned before how the whole entire city was built on one giant plane, essentially, that was flattened out over the course of about a month. So this is underneath the plane. This is the gaps between the original hills, and it contains a lot of storage space. So you can kind of see there, that's where the hills normally were. This was the normal ground level, if you will. And there are just rows and rows of chests. You can go that way, you can go this way. I had rooms for some of the most respected people on the server had rooms down here. I also had my own rooms, and these just go on and on. Some of them are divided into categories. Some of them are just kind of miscellaneous items. A lot of them are empty, but I stored so many of my items in here, and it, like I said, it just goes on for a very, very long time. Now, there are even unused rooms like this one here, and it's just emptiness, really. Down this way, what does this say? Shooting range? Yeah, I think I was supposed to set up a shooting range, and I just never did. But it goes for a very long time. In fact, I can show you here, just a giant empty room that leads out to the rest of the Undercity. Right now, we're actually directly underneath the housing district. In fact, if I go here, you can see the housing district. And if we go to the opposite side, now obviously there was nothing built here because it's too high up and we didn't want to mine it out. Basically, we were just utilizing space that was already there. And what is this? There's like a little stone structure here. Huh. Oh, I know what this is. So this is the room when I first built the city. I had to store building materials down here, and this is basically the room that I did that. And it all links around back to the mine. And then there's, of course, more space. If I warp through the floor here, there is even more space that I actually can't find right now. Here it is. So yeah, you had these storage rooms that just belong to different players, and it's almost like the back rooms down here with how many mazes there are, and it was actually designed that way on purpose because the idea was if anybody ever broke in here that wasn't familiar with the area, I didn't want them to be able to find their way out easily. I wanted them to kind of be lost and stuck here and require someone to come get them. I just wanted to make it difficult to break into at the end of the day, and yeah, so that is the secret underground storage bunker. Okay, so now here we are in the Castle District, and those of you who were fans of the Xbox 360 edition of Minecraft might be getting a sense of nostalgia right now, because this castle that I made is not a one-to-one replica, but a very, very, very similar, heavily inspired version of the 360 edition's tutorial castle. So 360 edition was my first experience with Minecraft, and I remember when I saw this castle for the first time on that tutorial world, I was simply blown away. So I wanted to recreate it in this world, in this city, and yeah, this is the end result. It has everything that the original had. You could climb up on the walls there, you can even go up in those towers, and then there is, of course, the church building that you could go in with the altar and the bookshelves and everything else. And I think I maybe I didn't put enchanting table in here, but I thought I did. But yeah, you've got everything. You've even got a tower there. You can go to the top and check that out down this winding little pathway that's a little bit sickening to have to look at to go, I admit that. I put a bedroom up here as well for myself, and then you can go and get a nice view of the entire city, and it's a pretty impressive view. You've got the forest behind it, and you've got the city itself. And that up there is actually a failed, incomplete, never really developed actually project. I was supposed to make a sky city in this world, but by the time I got to doing it, the server was a few months from shutting down, and really Minecraft in general for me was kind of dying then, so I didn't really want to play it anymore. So it never got built. I do have a sky city on my other world, which I'll probably be uploading sometime in the somewhat near future, so subscribe if you want to see that. Why am I going down there? I can just jump on peaceful difficulty. Oh, don't jump down there. That might actually kill me. Alrighty, let's just jump here, and that should work. There we go. So, yeah. Now, in addition to the replication of the tutorial castle up here, I also have it going on down here as well. So, in the original tutorial castle, you basically go down here, there'd be some water here and some boats, but in my version, you get to go down here, down this hallway, and that's where you find the boats. Now, there is a redstone contraption here where basically if you click this switch, lava will come out and you have a lava wall, and it can only be turned on or off from that side. And then you have this as well, can open and close. Same thing, can only be opened and closed from that side. It was meant to be closed, but yeah. There we go. So, then you got some boats here, and if you follow this river, you can actually make it to Hovel City down this river in addition to using the road. You don't have to always use the road. And then that brings us to the eastern outskirts of the city. And here we have a couple of buildings that were not built by me, they were built by other players. Looks like a graveyard or something. Okay. Yeah, if memory serves, this neighborhood's a little bit weird. These houses are a little bit strange. This one was built by the same guy that had that other house in the housing district. You can tell it uses the same build style. I guess he never finished it because there's nothing in here, and I'm just gonna leave. I'm just gonna leave this house because it's, like I said, this neighborhood is a little bit weird, but let's go back into the main city and show you more of the castle. So now we're back in the room from before, and if we go, well, that way there's nothing in this direction. I was planning to build a movie theater, a sort of underground movie theater down here at one point, but it never got completed. Basically, I wanted to dig pretty deep, and I think right around this corner, you can see I kind of built this tunnel here. Yeah, right in here was supposed to be the movie theater, but then I just ran into that water, I ran into this cave, and then I just kind of gave up and never really went on with it. But it was supposed to be a movie theater, hence the long, somewhat dimly lit hallways. But going back up here is where things get more interesting. We go back up here into the castle again. Now this is in the castle. I don't really know if you can consider this the basement, so I guess the first floor. We have this bar, which nobody ever visited because I didn't really allow anybody to visit the inside of the castle. But yeah, there's a bar. There's that hallway which wraps around, but then you can go in here where there's this little brewing room and a guest room that was only ever used like once, and then that's where the hallway wraps around to. And then you have the area that I called the laboratories, where basically anytime there was a new block or a block I wasn't sure of how it worked, I would put it in this lab and kind of test it. You can see I was testing concrete at one point when concrete was freshly added. And then here is the dungeon. And it's just occurred to me that it's probably not very smart to have a diamond ore right in the dungeon, but anyways, that was that. So, moving on. So the last major district of the city is going to be the farming district, which is right across from the castle district. And there's that archway there that I don't think you can actually get up there. It was just I had a lot of really weird plans for the city, where at one point I was planning to make it like one giant skyscraper and it would be multi-level going above the clouds, but that never came to fruition, probably for good reason. But here I have the farming district, and you walk in and there is this hedge maze, which isn't really much of a maze. You can just jump right on these pumpkins, and this was actually the first farm here. I farmed melons before I farmed anything else, and I made the hedge maze entirely in one night. I think I made the hedge maze right after I made the main walkway into the city, and the farm itself with all the animals was actually the last thing I made in the city. I've got this barn, you can kind of go in here, and you've got just different horses, a donkey, and some hay. Then you've got all different colors of sheep and manners of animals. Just a very basic farm, path blocks. Pretty cool. I don't remember getting llamas, but I guess I must have gotten them at some point. All built by me. And then last but not least, we have the crops. Loads and loads and loads of crops. But that is the interior of the new city, but I showed you the eastern outskirts. Let's go over to the western outskirts. So the western outskirts is a little bit less developed than the eastern, where basically you have here this little bridge, and everybody used to fish around here. So a fun fact is I actually got the vast majority of the clay for that haunted house. There's a lake right through this wooded area, and this lake, everybody thought it was a lucky lake because in the beginning you can actually see the highway right over there, but when they first added mending books to the game, loads of people fished up mending books from this little lake here, and for some reason this whole area was just like a giant nature reserve, and it was full of people just fishing and walking around, searching for wood. At one point, there was almost no wood here. It was completely deforested, but then I came in and planted all these trees. And I think I even bone mealed the ground to get more grass, so it was kind of restored. But then there's this little structure here under the water, which actually starts off here. Now this has an interesting story behind it. I don't know who built it, but as you can see, there are quite a lot of rabbits here. So there's actually a tunnel. There's a lot of, basically the whole tunnels project from Hovel City that I mentioned that failed actually came to fruition in this one. And this tunnel leads to where that green clay house that I mentioned earlier that belonged to the griefer, it actually leads right under there, and they used to have a rabbit room in their basement. Now, the basement was completely destroyed. I blew it up, but I didn't want to kill all these virtual rabbits for some reason. It just didn't feel right, so I led the rabbits down this long tunnel, dug a tunnel specifically for them, because I was kind of like, well, where's the nearest place that I can get these things to put them, and this was the nearest location, so that's why there are rabbits here. And a dog. I'm clicking on it, but it's not replying to me. I guess it's not my dog. I don't know whose dog that is. Huh, interesting. But yeah, I'm not sure who built this structure, but it is home to the rabbits and a dog that belongs to somebody. But that is the western outskirts. Now we're going to go to what's probably the most developed of any of the outskirts, which is going to be the northern outskirts. So the northern outskirts is probably the most built up of each outskirts area, and probably the most interesting. So for a very long time, the northern outskirts was just completely desolate. These trees weren't even here, these walls weren't here, the building wasn't here. The only thing that was here was the frame of this building, which was made of a couple of jungle planks of all things, and I don't know who built it. And then this little mine that I assume was built by the same person. The mine goes down a while. I think there's like a crafting table down there or something. There's nothing really worth showing. But this building just sat for probably about a year. The frame of it, at least. And eventually, I decided to replace any block that wasn't spruce wood with spruce wood. And I built this building. And the idea was, it was actually the last major construction that I built for the city on the outskirts, or really anywhere in the city, and it was meant to be sort of a giant entertainment building. This was like a hotel lobby, I guess, like a luxury hotel lobby. And then you go up here, and we had a restaurant. It was supposed to just be this whole luxury area for people to go to, even though the server at this point was pretty dead. I think we had an average of like 2 players on the server, and that was about it, maybe 3. But I built this. And then I built this floor here, which is a boxing arena. And it was meant as a mini game because at this point, nobody really cared about their world anymore, their character or whatever, their levels. So what you do, the premise of it was boxing with a twist. You'd sleep in here to set your spawn. And then you would press one of these random dispenser buttons that would give you a randomly renamed item. And I got everybody together that played on the server that was still somewhat playing. I think it was like maybe 6 people. And everybody had to name items something inappropriate. Basically, you would press the button, you would get a random item, and then you would have to beat your opponent to death with it in the little boxing ring. And the death message would come up, your gamer tag killed their gamer tag with Power Wheels, or whatever other wackily named item that you got out of the random little mystery box. So it definitely led to some funny moments, and we had fun as the server was kind of on its way out. But with Minecraft chat reporting today, you probably could never do something like that because... Anyway, so then you go up here, and this is just an empty room, another empty room, and then I'll give you 3 guesses what the next room is going to be. Another empty room. This building was never finished, which is kind of a shame because I really like these rooms. I feel like they have a lot of potential. They have a great view of the surrounding city and just general outside area. I mean, you can really see everything. I always wonder what it would be like if this server ever continued to develop, if it didn't shut down. I mean, hosting a server on Java requires an absurd amount of RAM ever since I think it was like the 1.13 update or something like that. Basically broke multiplayer, but it is what it is. Let's just jump down here and I'll show you the rest of it. Oh yeah, one thing that I made, which was quite cool. You may have noticed a few of these around the cities. This was the first one I made. They're supposed to be dumpsters, and you can open them up, throw something in them, and the idea is it's a good way to get rid of items without just throwing them on the ground and lagging the server, and without wasting them, because in these dumpsters, if you jump on top of them, you can go dumpster diving, and you can see a bunch of items people didn't want that they threw in here. So, some more useful than others, but still a pretty cool little recycling concept that I came up with. And there's this big pumpkin patch that has been here since time immemorial. I don't know why. A weird thing I do on all my worlds around the outskirts of cities, usually the northern outskirts, and I really don't know why I do this, but I always put a pumpkin patch on the northern outskirts. I don't do it intentionally, it just always ends up happening. You'll see that in future worlds. So, if you go in this way, there's a graveyard. I'm not going to show it because I think it has a lot of people's gamer tags or Discord names on it or whatever, so just for privacy's sake, I don't know if they're the same names anymore, but there's a graveyard in that direction. And then if we follow this path, we get to something interesting. The world's first major controversy, and I'll elaborate on that in a minute. So if you go through the woods quite a ways, you end up coming to this mountain biome, the old Extreme Hills mountain biome before they added the new mountains, and you come to this fort thing. This was the world's first major controversy and the start of what I believe to be one of the reasons why this server didn't last past 3 years. This house was built completely in creative. Up until this point, every single player on the server was building everything in survival mode. No mods, no cheats, no commands, just survival mode. How we knew this was being built, me and a couple of the people in my faction were actually the first ones to discover it, quote unquote. These blocks here can only be found in the end. These blocks existed before the end portal on the server had been found. And if you look throughout this entire house, there are no mines around here. There's no evidence that the person who built it used any tools. There are no used items, no used anything. They also have nether stars that you need to fight the wither for, and they definitely never fought the wither. Because of the proximity to our city, we definitely would have known about it had they fought the wither. So, I mean, they've got multiple, 3 nether stars. It was really 4 nether stars. It was really obvious that they never actually worked for any of the items they got. And when we confronted the admin with this, we found out that the person who made this was basically friends with the admin, and they were allowing all of their friends to go into creative mode. And it's not that the admin was a bad guy or anything, but it's just having some players going into creative mode on a server that was meant to be survival only really felt like, to me and a couple of people that I played with at least, it really felt like to us that it really diminished the value of the hours, weeks, and in some cases months of work that went into certain survival built creations. And as a result, we weren't really happy with it. And the thing is, this was not even the only house built in creative. That's the bad part. It's not even the only house, and I'm going to show you that next. So here we have yet another creation. You probably saw it in the intro of this video. This was also built entirely in creative mode, and it generated a lot of controversy with about a 50-50 split on the server, where basically half of the players that were left said, who cares, it's not like loads of people played here anyway. The other half were essentially saying, yeah, it's still kind of bullshit because we've spent literal months of our lives building things in survival mode, and now people are just going in and essentially using cheats. And it kind of, you know, once you put a server into creative, it kind of diminishes everybody's survival achievements almost. And At least that was my feeling at the time. Let me know if you guys agree or disagree in the comments below. But yeah, you can see this. It's a really, really cool creation. Like, undeniably, this airship is probably one of the coolest creations I've seen in Minecraft myself. Not counting things I've seen on YouTube, but it's probably one of the coolest things I've actually seen in a server. But it was made in creative on a survival server. And then you have that giant house down there, which we'll go and check out. Awesome build, completely impressive, but yeah. It was all made in creative mode. And I think the bad part is that some of the people who went into creative tried to lie. Basically, there was this whole drama where the admin didn't know that people were going into creative, but then he also wasn't going to stop them. And the solution in the end was that we were told if it bothered us that much, we could go into creative mode too and build our stuff in creative from then on whenever we wanted to. But obviously, like I said, what was the point when we had spent months building in survival mode? And it really just kind of, after that, I noticed the people that were on the server still just slowly stopped playing. You know, they'd play less and less. That went from them coming on every day to coming on like twice a week to coming on like once a month. And then nobody came on anymore because it was just like there was no point. And the people that built these creative houses also didn't come on anymore. It was just very big shame. But I will say I do have to give props to at least the design of this, because the design is nothing short of amazing. I mean, look at this TV. That's a cool TV. Can we? No, we can't hop over fence gates, or fences rather. But I love the design of this place. It's a little bit confusing to find your way around, but I do like the design. What's in here? A pumpkin farm. And this way. Okay, that's the dining hall. I seem to remember there being a library at some point. What's this way? What does it say? Armory, trophy room, and library. There we go. But yeah, you can see here, I mean, they've got end portal frames. Very obviously built in creative mode. I mean, nobody ever denied that it was. They pretty much admitted it after a while. But, very cool library, though. Very cool. Is it? Without a doubt, really cool creations, really cool builds. I cannot stress that enough. It's just a matter of it didn't seem fair when other people had spent, you know... I mean, these builds came about later for the most part, so it just didn't seem fair when you had people who put in over a year's worth of work making things in survival to then just have this. But I think I've stressed that point enough. Let's head out of here and go check out something else. So before I take us to the Nether Hub, I just want to check out the last bit of some of the creative creations. There was this giant tower, and it looks like it was never finished. I'm not really sure. Then there was that little building down there, and then there was the giant treehouse. This is all, by the way, directly behind Noob Town for some reason. I don't know why they chose to build it over here. I believe this was actually the admin's house. It's a pretty cool building, but I just feel like it doesn't have character because, like, there's no story behind this being built. This didn't take somebody months. This only took someone a couple of hours, and there's really no story behind it being built. I don't know. I mean, it's definitely cool, but it doesn't really have a story behind it, and it's just kind of here. I think at one point it got struck by lightning and almost burned to the ground, and that's when they turned fire spreads off on the server. But yeah, you can see there's Noob Town. There's the highway, and there's the little Griefer's Fort. But we will probably go head down to the Nether Hub and check that out now. Let's see. Oh. How are you supposed to get down if you were... I mean, I'm on peaceful mode, so it doesn't matter, but I don't know how you're supposed to get down normally. Wait, where am I? Oh, there we go. Alrighty, let's head to the Nether Hub. So this is the Nether Hub, where basically every single major settlement and even some minor settlements in the world were connected. So if you don't know, every 1 block you travel in the Nether is equivalent to 8 blocks in the overworld. So if you pull up your coordinates and you do some math, you can travel very, very quickly. And because we had a hard time finding certain biomes like a jungle and a desert, this was pretty valuable. Now, none of this was built by me. Both of my cities are linked to it. I believe the portals for those are down here. But yeah, it wasn't built by me. This was built by a couple of players, and it was the source of another world controversy. Basically, I mean, really, this all revolves around the jungle that I mentioned. If you press this button here, you will get a minecart that will take you to the jungle biome. It is a 10+ minute in-game minecart ride. You could literally go on an actual train and get somewhere quicker in some cases. There is also a jungle that's only about 10,000 blocks from spawn. That would not require you to go that far, and that was a big controversy because basically the people behind the Nether hub started demanding cobblestone, essentially a cobblestone tax, where they wanted everybody to give a portion of their cobblestone to fund the rail tracks that were, as you go on, they're made of cobble, and they go like 30,000 blocks that way or whatever in the Nether, which meant that in the overworld it was even further away than that. And that was basically a giant controversy for obvious reasons, and it just wasn't really... People started checking out. Between that and the creative thing, people started checking out, especially when the second jungle was found that was only about 10k blocks away. Also, most of these portals, most of these options don't go anywhere. The desert gut does. There is no theme park. The villager trading center didn't even need a path. The end portal didn't need a path. The ocean monument never was a thing. So, like, all of these points really don't lead anywhere. I'm not sure about the witch farm. But yeah, it was basically just a massively inefficient use of server resources. And then there was even further drama where some players were being asked to give up certain resources in exchange for using a blaze farm. And the blaze farm was free to use for basically everyone who was friends with this one guy. And if you didn't suck up to him, you didn't get to use anything. Or if he didn't like you, you didn't get to use anything. So my entire faction, we had beef with them, but there was never any actual beef. Like, because the rules of the server were no griefing was allowed, we never griefed them. They just didn't like us, so they wouldn't let us use any of their stuff. And it was just a big controversy at the time. And yeah, it ultimately led to the server's downfall because it was a very small server in the first place. Now, there are a few really, really far off places to go. Like, I know there's like a little tiny cabin in the middle of a snow biome if you go past this portal. If you go past this portal and ride this minecart really far ways, it's another like 10-minute ride. It's not worth doing. I'm not going to show you that. What I might show you as the last thing, I might show... Actually, you know what? There's really no point. I'm just going to end it here. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like on it. As always, I thank you so much for spending time in your day to watch the video. Subscribe if you'd like to see more. And apparently there's a musical tree. And yeah, have a great day and stay safe. I'm just going to put a couple of shots so you can kind of see a little nice overview again. And that's going to be it for me. I'm out. Goodbye, guys.
Thank you.